Hello and welcome to 21st Century Vitalism. You are in the new year. Welcome to 2021. If you thought it was going to be intrinsically better than the last, you may be wrong, but you may be right. I, for one, am of the accord that energy is just continuing to flow in the direction that it has been flowing, but I don't think that's a cause for alarm because I think, the current socio-political economic situation that we're currently in is an interesting one that is dredging up a lot of the injustice of the world, and we're able to see it all front and center. So, in short, hang on. This year is about to be really crazy. I feel like we started a conversation last year, and now we're going to start working on solutions, and we're going to start actually realizing the deeper implications that this pandemic election cycle is really actually leading us towards. So I really want to start this new year off with some levity. That is why I have today's guest, Zachary Winchester, aka the Nonsense Man, joining us to help kick off the new year the only way that he can, with a good dose of nonsense. I think this was a great conversation in exemplifying the spontaneity that I think is going to be required for juggling all the different pressures that we have this year. I don't mean to pathologize or, have nociceptive information and tell you guys that it's going to be bad, because I don't think good and bad is really going to be adequate enough to describe the kind of spaces that we're going in. I think that this is going to be challenging, but also liberating at the same time. And I'm really confident that we have a good shot at actually understanding and spreading genuine compassion. I feel that within my own sphere, and I can only trust that that's a mirror of the external. Another big news that I have to offer is that I moved houses. So I'm pretty excited about it. I have been living in the past 3.5 years in the same space. It's been a communal living kind of situation, so I ended up getting into an opportunity that allowed me to move across town. That is Grand Rapids, for those of you who don't know, Michigan, and move in with two really sweet humans who are fixing up a really cool looking house. And I'm just really excited about this opportunity and the ability to have a little bit more space in my life and a little bit more solitude. I love my old living situation, but I think this new year is going to call for some new focuses and new kinds of energies to really be of most benefit. So yeah, already this year is hitting hard. I'm super excited for it, and hopefully I can use this podcast platform as a means to get you excited about it. Hopefully this year, as we spend together, I can introduce you to some practices or themes that could actually be of service, and that's essentially what I'm doing. I said it last year, and I'll keep saying it. I have an incredible roster of humans who are down to collaborate on this project, and I have a full mission plan that will be unveiled this year that is leaning into some certain certifications that I still want to get. I kind of want to be a little hush-hush and vague about it, so when it releases, I'm probably going to do like a rebranding, and yeah, I got the whole works in for you guys. I am really confident about what's going to be happening this year, and I'm excited to share what I have in store. But without teasing you too much, this episode is a special one, and I'm really glad that we're able to do this on the new year because it involves one of my favorite humans from the Detroit area. He is the Nonsense Man, who you may know from the Nonsense Nights or his podcast, The Nonsensus. If you're feeling a theme, it's pretty apparent. The entire platform is essentially about spontaneity, showing up for your full magical self, believing in yourself, and having fun. It's really hard to actually pin down exactly what he is advocating for, and I think that that's a part of it. So I don't even want to be too on the nose and define it. I think something like this is just best to be experienced. Performance artist, podcaster, event creator, chaos magician. The man does it all. He's also got a wonderful puppet friend named Fractal the Magical Turtle. He is just an absolute force of nature when it comes to both entertainment and philosophy. I mean, he's a really well-rounded human being that I enjoy every interaction with, and this podcast is no different. We cover a lot of different topics, and I think it's honestly best to just kind of leave it at that and let you experience it firsthand. Before we get started, I just want to remind you, if you are inspired by what I'm doing here with the show, if you've gotten any sort of service out of this, then feel free to head on over to Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star rating, download, even listens, interact with us on social media. It all goes a long way in helping the algorithms feed this show to people who may need it. That's what it's about, making sure that the show reaches the people who want the content. And we're fighting against AI. So help us win the fight against the robots and, reach a larger audience. Let's do this thing. 2021. I'm pretty confident. Without further ado, please welcome to 21st Century Vitalism, Zachary Winchester. This has been maybe the most problematic podcast to ever get started. I think that that's a good omen, though. I think that that's indicative
of my punk
of
band.
What's that?
I'm in a post psychedelic apocalypse new pop punk band called the Problematic Podcast, and we suck.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to with that. I imagine adequate amounts of crust. And out-of-tune instruments.
Do you want to know what the project is?
Yeah.
It's all of the technical errors that happen in streaming in mid and slightly after post-pandemic Earth. And it's just all of those moments of can we get a bit? I can't hear you in my headphones. And that's all the lyrics. And the music is it's an acapella. It's an acapella.
Oh my gosh. I was going to say, if it was also drone, that would have been really great too. Just some really long held sine waves, really high pitched sine waves, just to really add that layer of like futurism, which, I mean, this obviously is a futurist pop punk band as well. That's brave.
Yes. Retro, future, post psychedelic renaissance, new pop punk podcast problems.
Cool. So who's going to be a running mate for the 2024 election?
Who's going to be my running mate?
Yeah.
Now, so it has occurred to me that Andrew Yang I might actually prefer the first Yang administration to be him as main voice in the ear, vice president, and doer of many things, but not the public aspect of presidency. So I think that Tulsi Gabbard would be good to throw the pitch now. But you're asking me. Like throw the pitches at the baseball game and do all and do the speech, the Merry Christmases and stuff. And so Andrew Yang has all of his mental real estate to be going out and doing it, getting it done. Even though I think that he would be great at all I love him as a persona and whatnot, to be able to affect more good shit in 4 to 8 years. Anyway, you're asking me who would my running mate be? Andrew Yang.
It'd be Andrew Yang. I was honestly really hoping you would say the hologram of Terrence McKenna, because I honestly feel that the hologram specifically has already done the travel, like the post-life, like uploaded to the cloud drive travel. And I think that that's really what we're going to need, that perspective while we're shaping, like not just the Green New Deal, but like the cybernetic New Deal that we should really be embracing, But Yang is a good second. He's a good second. I'm not trying to say that was there's no bad choice. It was just that I had expectations. It was kind of like your version of picking Kamala, but it's fine. It's fine. I mean, we can work with it,
I love Terrence McKenna dearly, but as I think that most sincere psychonauts with that intellectual self-defense thing going on find that you find Terence McKenna, you absorb hundreds of hours of recording, some of which are terrible audio quality because you love it and him and the words that are being said so much. But then as you mature, you start to have more and more disagreements with Terence McKenna, but they're wonderful because I still love him to life. I think that it is good to, but it becomes this cute thing where you get to see it's like, that's like what I sound like when I've recently had a psychedelic epiphany, and now I know what's up. Like the way he got about Time Wave Zero stuff. It's like, wow, man, you spent a lot of time talking about this date, this thing that was supposed to happen. But I love Terence McKenna so much, and socio-politically, I think that me and Terence McKenna might see the world a bit differently right now if we could have a talk. God, wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't it be great to be able to, even like a AI, like the movie Her with Joaquin Phoenix, to be able to talk to your favorite turtles of history who have shed their mortal coils. Oh, what an experience,
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've probably seen that deep fake of Joe Rogan where it was like an AI that was using his voice and talked about like a chimp eating somebody. Like, I feel like if Terence McKenna were to come back, that would be the most like accurate and adequate way to bring him back, is like build an AI out of everything that he's ever said, out of the thousands of hours of lectures that he has, and like it's probably just as good as the real thing, right? I mean, he would probably make an argument for it.
Oh, that in the lore, in the canon, in the cinematic fictional science of like that Black Mirror episode. Where it's, your boyfriend or girlfriend dies and you can take all their recordings and voicemails and video of them and get this thing that will do most of what they do, but then you heartbreakingly, subtle heartbreaks over time, realize that this is just a snapshot of the consciousness that was, and that the thing about being in love with a human being is that they change and stuff, and they're unpredictable as fuck. Well, not everybody's as unpredictable. Some people are incredibly predictable. But anyway, the thing that this isn't, or like if it's the AI, it's gonna love you forever, right? Even no matter what you do, it's always gonna tolerate you and love you. As where if it's the real human, there's always this edgy factor that this person might go and fuck around and make the wrong choice. This person might completely reject me like shortly after marriage, or not show up like the Wedding Singer movie, Adam Sandler.
Back when he was doing some good stuff.
Are you suggesting that there has been a fall from grace? Are you suggesting that there are multiple cinema celebrity, actor, comedian people who at some point in their career stopped being sincere or having the capacity to do sincere art stuff because of financial momentums in their life? Are you trying to say that bad art gets made, Brett?
I'm hinting at it. But at the same time, I have to remember that Uncut Gems was freaking incredible. So like the fact, like that's where like my heart is kind of broken, because it's like, man, you're capable of doing some amazing things. And ultimately, I don't care. At the end of the day, he in my life served a role when I was at a younger age, and I'm very thankful for that being. And same thing with like all the other actors who may have fallen from our what we consider grace, because it really is our projection of what success is, for them. I mean, he's probably rolling in it, probably happier than he's ever been,
I think that sometimes maybe, and there's another thing, bookmark that thing that you just, when you have a judgment of how somebody's career went, sort of thing. And somebody who's not in your life, they're just a celebrity that you've witnessed from afar, and you perceive what you think is a fall from grace, or like the moment where everything after this, you were just trying to pay the piper, and your like sincere quality art making career stopped at this time, and then you had your fall from grace, and then it's like we say, I like your early work, sort of thing. Yeah, when you see that and feel all the judgmental-ish feelings about like this just character of a person you don't never have conversations with, I find that that's a really good, that's always like turn the lens into yourself and be like, hey, yeah, isn't that a bummer when somebody has a ton of potential and they don't They don't optimize it. Like, doesn't it make you? And then it's just always turn that in on the self. And unless you're stressing yourself out, maybe it's good to stress yourself out sometimes. I don't know.
I think it is to a degree. I think it can definitely become pathologic after a while, but it's good to like have the ability to self-assess and to be able to kind of address and pivot. But I actually really think that that is an interesting phenomenon. I've been on that team, so to speak, of kind of like they're not living up to the standards that I placed on them back when I was in a very heightened state and had this unrealistic kind of relationship with their art, and now they're not doing what I think is good, so therefore they've fallen from grace, and I'm going to tell everybody about it. It's a weird kind of like self-justified kind of pompous thing to do, you know. It's like they're artists, they're moving on in ways that they want to move on, and whether or not they've sold out, like that's just where they're at. You don't know what the pressures are of that artist and what they need to do in order to like be at their cutting edge, and if they're slacking, then they're slacking. I don't know, I just think like don't put so much of your energy into other people's projects. You can enjoy it, but like to where you end up getting a pathology about it, like then it becomes a major part of conversation. It's like you could be having conversation about the things that are actually relevant to you rather than the shitty things other people are doing.
I could take this to a. Should I use the word dark? I could take this to a. Because it's not necessarily a dark thing. It's just death. And I don't know what people's functioning definition or use of the adjective dark is as a like thematic of like this got some dark themes in it. Not like dark as in like that one episode of Game of Thrones that I thought really sucked. Where it was all you couldn't see what was going on, and that was supposed to be suspenseful, but it really just made things difficult to enjoy. Anyway, what the fuck was I saying? Oh yeah, when the thing of falling off. I believe is that the colloquial phrase for.
I think so.
When you start to suck,
Yeah.
falling off, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
I think that there's something that could be observed there about life and death, which is
for
that
sure.
you have this period. I'm not gonna name any names, but then again, we just named Adam Sandler. So if the only person being invoked, but I don't want to say this about. So okay, so I'm not gonna find and drop a name, but there's some artists.
Now I'm curious.
There are some artists that like. It seems like the thing that made their art for that decade or that 5 years or just those 2 albums or even that like stretch of 20 years. And then it was like, oh, okay, they should, somebody can tell them to stop. Somebody tell them to stop. Oh, that's like that, which obviously is subjective as fuck, but we all, have our observations about it. That when it's somebody who it really seems like the fury and maybe even a bit of the survivalism, like made their art, particularly like in the lyrical division. I don't know, I shouldn't say that, but like, but with lyricists, I notice it a lot because it's like, you're talking about your life and stuff, depending on what genre. Some people are more, some genres tend to do more autobiographical things. But when it seems like what the thing that was your lightning bolt of creativity is like fury and like really intense emotions, and then you become successful and rich, and then you have this experience that a lot of people are detailing very thoroughly a lot, and I think it's just going to keep happening. There's going to be more of these successful, really admired celebrity people who write their tell-all book, and in it they get to disclose that it's really beautiful and happy at first, and there's a big "we are the champions" like period that can really keep lasting, and there's some examples of that, but it's difficult to because our whole situation, it seems like our biological robot human vessel thing. I don't know what a spirit is really, but the thing that is containing your consciousness, or so it seems, like its whole deal is getting used to stuff, and trying to get to the most settled place to be safe across time. And that seems to happen with age. Obviously, everybody's different, but I'm already beginning to experience it. Like, I don't need to go and. I used to ambush people with art. I would hop on a literal tree stump in electric forest in the Nest area and begin rapping and orating and beatboxing and such. And when I think about that now, it's like. I kind of really just prefer people who an audience of those who have already said they want particularly this, because then there's retracting in one's sowing wild oats-ness,
Yeah.
you get so much. And there's some artists that I subjectively observed to have like this period of time where they were really doing it, and it was based in this kind of like running away from poverty and like some problems that money could solve and some problems that money didn't solve. Like all the success actually amplified, and then there's people who, you know, burn out, go down. But the thing where you can tell that an artist, particularly I think maybe music may be the best example, you can tell where it's like, this is now music so that songs get made, and they're trying to make good music, and they're trying to, but like the real sincerely felt wish to communicate through this medium is kind of dwindling. And I think that this is this beautiful thing that I'm noticing about death, like the whole thing, which the whole like cradle to the grave experience. There's that Hindu illustration that like so does that so well. There's several, but there's one that I'm thinking of that I don't know how to point to with words. But anyway, that whole path of life to death thing, it's like, I think that we'll understand this more as we become more like death positive, that maybe there comes a time where you look around, you just notice yourself not wanting to say or interact with the field of contemporary reality so much, and you just suddenly become really into observing and absorbing, and like even if you're exercising all the time, like there's this thing where I notice myself kind of relaxing into the grave, like in a really like in a beautiful way, sometimes, and sometimes in a scary way, but sometimes just being like, yeah, like I love it here, I love my life, I'm so glad that it's just getting started. I really, really hope. But the thing that I used to have, which was like, absolutely not, my life and my identity is so important, and it can never be destroyed. And that would be just such a shame. And it would be, but anyway, you know what I'm saying? Like the thing where you can just subtly getting to observe. And that's why I like that maybe that capitalism has rendered that experience so much for us, of somebody like, making art when they don't really want to make art anymore, you know?
Yeah.
You can tell.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the artists that came to mind when you were talking about how like oftentimes it's like the survival instinct is what the fuel is to like succeed, and then like when they get big they kind of lose that fuel. I had like an image in my head of like when a spaceship is launching off, they have that part that falls away, and it's the extra fuel that it takes to leave orbit, and it's like those fuel canisters that are breaking away, and like to break through the atmosphere into space, like you have to also have other fuel to rely on other than the survival instinct. And I think one of the artists that really exemplifies this, and I think it's why he's one of the greats, is Kendrick Lamar. I actually just started getting into his work this year, and like listening through his entire discography, it literally is like autobiographical for like the part of life that he's in, like Good Kid, Mad City. That whole album is like, I really want to get out of the hood and I want to be something, and it's kind of like the struggle between like all the pressures in that time. And then when you listen to his next album, which is oh God, it's like right in he's one of his most popular ones. Oh geez, To Pimp a Butterfly. It's all about how like now that he's got some clout, now that he's got some fame, like his relationships that like helped see him through there are starting to like have pressure on them. So like he's got like family members like, oh yeah, you just think you're hot shit. And like after that he does the newest one, Damn, which is just like completely out of the atmosphere at this point, and like you can actually chart the entire like artist path with integrity, and like the importance of like it's kind of like attachment, like we're attached to the survival mechanism to create good art, and it's like when you get to the capacity of that, then it's like the work that we do on becoming unattached allows us to kind of expand and look into a different realm of creativity, and it's like you kind of like need that where there's so many artists who don't, and I think when we're talking about like the idea of like life and death, and back at the start of this was like the nature of like hating on an artist because they don't make art that relates to you anymore is kind of similar to the very first thing that we talked about with relationships and love and AI. It's like the artist that you're in love with is not artificial intelligence. They are living human beings. So the capacity, like the thing that I wanted to say was in a loving relationship, the thing that allows you to love is the level of impermanence without that kind of that shaky ground. The fact that like this is going to end in flames at some point, whether it's from death or whether it's just from an early breakup. It's like, unless you have that, then like the love isn't possible. So like I understand the younger me who was looking at artists who weren't making music that I liked anymore. Like I understand because I was so deeply in love with the art that they did, and it was more predicated on that love rather than like the hate for where they're going. But it was like the lack of ability to change with the times and with the new elements that they were working with. And yeah, I think there's definitely a phase in like an artist's life where we have to be able to renegotiate how we fuel our inspiration. It's like, where are you looking for inspiration? It's kind of like traveling up through the chakras in a little bit, which might be a bigger topic than what I'd care to include into this. But
I will say, but we don't need to go down that path right now. That's one of the ones that I don't get so much. It is not really occurred to me intellectually yet. I've had experiences with chakra stuff, but I don't have language in my head for it, to the point where when you're saying it's like going up the chakras, I'm like, all right, bro.
yeah, yeah. Well, that was more in reference. Alex Gray wrote a book called The Mission of Art, where he actually talks about like using art as a spiritual path, and he actually overlays it to the chakras. Essentially, chakra, energy center in the body, they each relate to different aspects of kind of like I'm not too
straight up
versed.
derail you on your own program. We were on a cooler thread before.
Well, I mean, it's relevant to art, in terms of like satiating your needs is essentially what it is, and like using that as a map to understand that like the different fuels for your art, as you go down an artistic path, those inspirations that you need to draw from keep expanding and expanding until you're through the crown, if you will. So that's really all that I was pointing out to with that. But something that I want to bounce back to you is that you were talking about the idea of ambushing people with your art. I actually think that there is room for that in the art sphere, in terms of, and whether or not that's where you're at now. But like I think about like the Matthew Silvers and the Vermin Supremes, and that's something that actually really struck me about you and what got me connected to you X amount of years ago. I mean, fuck, we're going close to a decade now. But it was because of those pop-up art things that actually, and I'm not here to toot your horn, but like you, at a point where an incremental, like the way you processed and shared your art was really beneficial for me to see and to kind of like open me up a little bit. And I know you're scrunching your face right now, but like, I mean, we all do that for each other, and that's a part of the giving is also receiving. So God damn it, you're a good dude. You got good art. So what do you think? Like what is changing your tactic on ambush art?
I don't know. By the way, thank you. You said kind words there, and I only scrunched thy face, as a funny, or an attempt at silliness, cutery. Anyway, what was the question?
Oh, jeez.
What was the question again?
What have I done? I'm a bad host.
What was the question? No, you're great. You're great. But you invoked Kendrick Lamar, and I wanted to state my intense agreement. I love the music of Kendrick Lamar so much, and to the degree where I know that that's a particularly magical turtle. We have not had coffee and chess as of today, but that's like a turtle that I can observe of like. You're on Team Humanity. You're super sincere. You got both of the polarity stuff going on in your DNA, and I love Kendrick. I love Kendrick Lamar. And then you asked me a question at the end of, and when you said the nice words, then you said, "Oh, ambush art, yeah." So I don't know if it's a thing of maturity or. Because what is it to get older? It is to have had more. Maybe I don't know. I don't know if this translates to spiritual talk, but to have had more experiences of the breathing, and I think that this thing that I used to fear because it was like the howling, the yawning of the grave, the howling of the wind through the moors, like in Secret Garden. That it was death tractor beam stuff. But it's all like I'm warming up to this whole thing. I want to love all of reality. Let me not sidetrack from this though. The ambush art thing. Yeah, I don't feel the need to surprise pollinate passerbys with sincere communications. I don't feel that impulse as much as I used to. Also, there must be a confession. There was several times at the festivals where it was like very much, I don't know if, as we say, sober, not enhanced, not altered state me would have been as inclined or emotionally capable to hop up on the stump and gather a crowd and then just like have that happen in this way that now seems less appealing because I love the enthusiastic mutual consent thing. Let me change that last word at the end because it's mutually enthusiastic agreement to experience in a way like the thing with the performer audience. Like, I used to suck at being an audience. My consciousness was not wired to do that properly unless it was like a moment of being in an altered state or just like, oh my God, I love this band so much. This is fucking happening to the point where the religious experience thing is triggered, you know? Yeah, now when I think about what it would be to walk up on a gaggle of folks who might be sitting in a circle having an intimate social interaction that may be at a place where like they're about to like have a psychotherapeutic breakthrough with some verbal confrontation with something from the past or some shit like that, you know, because you're at a festival, any of that can be happening. And now some random fuck is doing, and maybe it's even a totally positive experience for them of like, oh, what's that going on there? Oh, there's a singing turtle. Okay, whoa. And then, but it's like, what did I just derail? You know, I'm like, there's ways in which I'm becoming more relaxed and ways in which I'm becoming more neurotic and it's cloaked as being considerate for others. But no, I think that's me being considerate for others. I had a time once where I was like, can I cast a spell on all you magical turtles like in a festival situation? And there's like this percentage who are like totally down and like, you know, scoot on over and like, you know, we're ready to receive a performance art thing. And then there's like one guy who literally came up and was like, bro, could you not be casting spells right now, bro? Because like my girlfriend just hit the fucking DMT, man. And she's like, I don't know. Like she's spooked out by the concept of spells being casted. And it's like, yeah. So anyway, the what I prefer to do now, and I think this is like, I don't know if it's across the board, but I think a lot of people who do artist stuff who get a little older, a little longer in the tooth and grayer in the beard, start to value more a container where an audience came enthusiastically to get a particular thing, and now they're like, you know, all the trigger warnings have been signed off upon, and it's like, yeah, you're an artist person who I trust. When you talk, you go places that there's, you know, some intention of something beneficial or at least connective. And so, yeah, fuck me up, Buttercup. Hit me with some truth. Like I have that when I have that for certain individuals. There's certain individuals at Burning Man that I get to experience them performing, and it's been such a special thing. Like really sitting there being like, this person is not world famous by the usual metrics. You know, their YouTube might have like 12 subscribers, and they can't quite figure out how to like turn this into absorbable media or a career. But I am enjoying this performance as much as anything ever, and they are so fucking great, and they know it now because they're experiencing it in a, you know, zone of whatever the fuck stuff that's going on at Burning Man sort of thing. Did that answer that?
Yeah, no, that was great. I think I don't want to put words to what you're thinking, but it kind of reminds me of the idea of like just treading lightly, and like, yeah, the idea of like consent is kind of a huge thing. And it also allows you like the idea of like creating the container for your art to be in. It also does allow you to kind of push it more to its limits, because you don't have to really take into consideration the people that might not actually consent to the spells that you're casting. So I actually think that does kind of fit in pretty nicely with how you handle your art. I don't know. I still feel like there's still, I mean, I think a lot about like the work of like Matthew Silver, and like that dude don't really do anything about consent, but he also doesn't like, I'm sure he's very mindful about how he does his brand of nonsense. And I almost feel like I still think that there is like a time and place, at least, with like festivals and stuff, because it's not like you're separate from the environment. When you're doing that, it's almost like the environment is kind of moving through you, like if you're genuinely connected to the current moment and allowing yourself to express freely as the environment container allows you to, I almost feel like there might still be like a middle ground between that, because like I said, when I was younger, and there's many performance artists that just kind of like came into my sphere when I was maybe in an elevated state that actually like gave me the exact download that, I needed, so it's just, I don't know. I mean, I've obviously everyone to their own and stuff, but
so situational. Like I was saying the scenario of, okay, so that nest at Electric Forest, there's this enclosure, there's this festival in Michigan in the let's just say the 2000 teens and perhaps into the 20s. It will be a thing. If you're just tuning in now from the future or just have no frame of reference of what an Electric Forest is, so there's that festival, and I've done this thing at this place that is like a nest. It's an enclosure made of a bunch of sticks. It looks like a really, really dedicated, disciplined band of perhaps Yetis. I don't know. I don't want to actually, I don't want to assume things about the level of technological capabilities of Bigfoot, but it seems like a bunch of really, really, really smart Yeti Sasquatch sort of creatures, or some humans who were trying to make a thing look like a nest. Was that insulting? I didn't mean that to come off that. Anyway, it's a nest, and it looks organic, like it doesn't require a species that has smartphones. That's all I'm saying. It has that thing. Oh man, how offensive was the thing that I just said? It was totally an accident.
Is it to Yetis, or is it to the people who built the nest? Because I honestly thought it was like small woodland creatures that came together and bent the sticks, and that was my interpretation.
Well, it's like, what do we know? What do we know about Sasquatch? What do we know? What do we know? I mean, we can't even confirm the existence, let alone whether or not it's doing telepathy, telekinesis, or has an axe. It might have an axe. But okay, that's a good way of putting it. The nest is like there's no clean chops. It's all sticks. So
all sticks. Yeah.
I just spent a lot of time with the imagery of this nest at this festival. Okay, anyway.
It's a very specific thing.
It's special.
I think that it is important to like create that image.
It's special. So, and in there, there's turtles who are doing the whole like semi-autonomous zone music festival thing where you might do a thing like smoke DMT all willy-nilly like in a little nest area. And there's folks in there who are super duper roly-polies, who are feeling them that way. And when you get, you might be having your first MDMA experience at a festival and be in a cuddle puddle with your friends in a massive bird's nest thing. And the things that might be happening verbally or connection-wise there might be so invaluable. And now there's this guy who has decided that it's performance time when you may have came there particularly to get away from art performance time and be with each other. And I would say that I value now from having hosted, done things for this nonsense night thing in Detroit, that the greatest thing that can happen is people connect, communicate, conversate, whether with words or with dancing or playing a game, or just all the connection stuff is the best thing amongst the audience, I would say. Yeah. And so I would just highly prefer now a situation where it's like, you put the fish in the barrel, and then I'll come with the what are we going to do with these fish in this barrel? And I'll come with the some general. I don't want to. It's usually shooting the fish in the barrel, but
Yeah, I know. I was just like, I was waiting to see how you dug yourself out of this one, but I'm not helping. I'm not throwing the rope. I'm curious.
it's bad. Hose with warm water. Oh no, the flour. Okay, so fish with the fish food. Yeah. No, that's it.
Yeah, the fish food. Yeah,
fish food.
Yeah. Yep.
Consciousness.
Well, I mean, providing the barrel, for the fish to be able to swing amongst themselves as they see fit, that's a great service,
But with all of that said, that's the fuck around and find outness, which I'm thinking about forming a religion that is FAFOism. Fuck around and find out.
Yeah.
It's an acronym.
Is it like the fourth religion you've started?
Oh yeah, I mean, well, I think I've done. Okay, so anyway, if that, I'm not saying that I have had my last choice experience and done the thing where I jump up on a literal tree stump in a festival where people might be having, whatever experience that gets derailed. No, I think that now if I were to do that, I would do it in a way where you can observe me somewhere. Like you can observe that say that there's a magical turtle that has appeared, like a flying turtle that sings and speaks, and you can see that going by, and then you can go into an area where that can be a more immersive experience. But I no longer feel attracted at all to the ambush. Like, I just always want any interaction with me. We could even take this in a socio-sexual direction, but like that's one of the cool things about maturity or becoming a more learned from experiences and empathy exercises that I don't really want to have interactions that aren't mutually enthusiastic at all in my life anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you really only have so much energy in life to spend on things. And, if it's not like a positive feedback loop where they're about it, you're about it, everybody's about it, then it's kind of a matter of like, it's just kind of like spilling energy out, if you want to look at it that way. Yeah, I mean, I like that a lot. And even like the term like ambush, is like, which I don't think it has like an official term, but I think that there are definitely some instances. I mean, I know a lot of people, who aren't even as performance arty, but I mean, it's kind of the same thing with like a conversation, like if you're hanging out with some friends and someone comes up and just starts like yammering on, and it's kind of like maybe a little bit of the same energy where it's like asking for a response, where it's like, I wasn't really in a space to give you a response. I'm in a space, I only have so much energy for me and my friends, and now I have to like allocate to this other external situation, and yeah, I think that is probably pretty accurate. I don't know, I definitely still like the saboteur of like regular society though. Like I love like the fringe people who are in New York City just doing some crazy stuff just to like break up the monotony of, but I mean it is kind of a different thing, especially if we're talking about like cities.
That format, that forum, that the situation of there is a river of humanity that is always flowing by this place in, say, New York City. And in all directions, there are signs, there is all sorts of ambush advertisement, including actual people human beings who will approach you and try to take your precious attention and perhaps even slow you down on your like mission to get somewhere that you have chosen to give all of your attention to, and they're trying to distract you from your motherfucking mission and hit you with, hey, buy this, or join this pyramid scheme. And so it's very different than at a festival to be like, all right, these people are under fire. They are under, like these people who are walking by are all getting hit with, or at least they're being targeted by things that wish to communicate to them to make a different choice, to be distracted, or to think about a different thing, to like, occupy their mind. And God, that gets really bad during lawn sign season. We saw that in the year 2020.
Oh God, it was so bad.
So anyway, if you're in a public zone, like, I haven't experienced Times Square. I think that I think I might be okay on that, but I also think I should just do it for the same reason I should go to, I was about to say a super dark thing, but historical sites of where bad shit happened. There's some places that I would like to stand in the energy of that. Anyway, so if you're in Times Square and you're doing ambush art, It's kind of like, you went to a place where everybody's trying to yip at you. Everybody's trying to get you. And so if somebody's going to go down there with their handpan and or brass instrument and or poetry or you mentioned Matthew Silver, do a histrionic, get your attention and then give you either something to feel or think about or both, but hit you with something that that there's a strong argument and I imagine an intention to maybe give you something better is a big word, but a more human and sincere beam of communication than what's already coming at you from all the directions, which is ambush advertisement. So yeah, and the difference between that and a festival and an intimate zone at a festival. Like I look back at that and I'm like, you motherfucker, man, you went to the place where people there's people falling in love in there. There's people having those experiences that I've been a festival goer. Well, you're still a festival goer when you're going and doing work stuff at it. But I have been, at a festival as purely as a patron. And God, the best thing that I want to have happen to me is I want to connect with an individual intensely, And when you're in those special states, it's like you want to really make a thing happen in the actual vortex of a performance, doing dancey doos or all the different things that turtles do when there's a concert going on. But my favorite thing about festivals has always been being super duper vulnerable and present with folks that also happen to be at this festival. Some of which become great friends.
Yeah, and I think that's honestly what most people are going to festivals for. The music's great, the art's great, all that's fun, but a lot of people just want to go be in love, whether it's with their friends or with a new friend, there is an element of searching, so having the awareness and the wherewithal to kind of understand the idea of a sacred space and not bringing your thing to it, but still finding other avenues where you can do your thing, because there's definitely other avenues. But in terms of New York, I find it fascinating because I feel in order to live in New York, you have to consent to being advertised to, in a major metropolis. That's what you're moving through. You're swimming through the ocean of advertisements, and it's a very stimulating environment. So I do like the idea in those situations because you don't see it very often. Team human folks who are trying to just kind of wake you up a little bit, just kind of bring you more into the moment, because we shut out so much of it, especially in those centers, because it's so overly stimulating. If you don't shut it out, then you're going to be overwhelmed, and I just don't know how someone can live in those conditions, but
I don't want to say I can't, because if bringing up Andrew Yang again, he has announced that he is officially running for mayor of New York City. And I have not officially decided this entirely yet, but I'm something 80% there, that I would like to promise to myself and the world that if Andrew Yang becomes the mayor of New York City, that I will immediately plan, at the very least, a stint staying in the city and trying to but I will go to that city for more than a week vacation, really do the thing where you put the effort and the rinse and repeat, and not all of the shows go as great as the others but I will go and try to pollinate my purposeful propagations of nonsense, and theory of enchantment is another constitution of magical stuff that I'm super about right now. The non-institution, don't try to define it, don't take it seriously, and don't tempt anything mutual without mutual enthusiasm. Stuff I will go there and do that, and Fractal the Magical Turtle will also come to New York. And I brought that up to say that because the thing that I feel like this will resonate with a lot of particular turtles right now. I fucking have a deep craving that is on the level of when will I see my dad again? When you're when you're a young child, and are not doing anything to like shy from your emotions yet. Like that whole thing hasn't kicked in yet. If there would be any reason not to just say I miss my dad, like I have such a deep craving. This gets archetypal. I have such a deep craving to be in a neighborhood, whether it is large as a like county or like a village in maybe somewhere that is in America. But I really want for my life to experience time in a community of humans, whether it's a fucking city of several million or a fucking village in the mountains of Transylvania. Anywhere where I really want to experience the thing where I'm not resentful towards the leadership, or the other way around. More so, not that it's not resentful, that I believe that I see a human who is actually trying to optimize things, and so that signals and has me feeling encouraged and also safe, not safe necessarily like physically or emotionally, but it would be like, it would be a good choice now to actually put a good amount of effort into the communal effort of optimizing a city, of a village. We all want everybody to be as good as possible. We want everybody's lives to be great. And yeah, there's people who are way more wealthy who live in this fucking really fancy place, and me and my friends are like really struggling to have this fucking water closet with a beanbag, situation in a side of town where not all the street lights work. But to be in a city where to be in a situation where it's like representative democracy is doing the thing. Not even necessarily that. I just want to fucking to have a feeling like it's not a fucking waste of effort to try to participate in the. Did I lose it?
The organizing body.
That I haven't felt any sense of of team on your team, which I think we all, whether or not we say these words, like you have a sense of your like team humanity, right?
Yeah.
Like I see folks, whether they have like a really, really great successful podcast, or they're like, got selling a bunch of books, or they have some political achievement, or, event, like, or like the story of Malala Yousafzai, like somebody like that. Like I have, and she's totally on my team humanity, which I sometimes refer to as Team Turtle. But to have that feeling about like, I'm waking up in a place where my neighbors are, I could go as far as to say family, but for those who that sort of language freaks out, to feel like my neighbors are my community.
Neighbors.
Yeah, my neighbors. Yeah.
Actual neighbors. Even that, the baseline. I recognize that they're people who live next to me. Sometimes we can't even get to that.
Can you imagine that? Oh, man. I don't know. Maybe go to that because that gets all political. But can you imagine how optimal that could be having? Because it's like, I'm not like you said the phrase tooting horn. Like I don't feel like when I go on about Andrew Yang right now, I don't feel horn tooty so much as I observe, and a lot of my neighbors and friends and people that I think are really trying to figure stuff out here. I observe a problem solving consciousness, personality, and someone who has done the thing that is so rare right now, where somebody is drafted by their own competence, as opposed to ambition to win. Like I'm a little bit disgusted with myself for the years that I spent not being as present as I could with my friends and family and everyone, because my goal was to, as they say, get big.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something, especially with like the lives of artists, that's kind of an archetype at this point, like the person who kind of not forsakes, but just kind of like doesn't focus on the most immediate aspects of life because they have this idea of what it means to make it. But I like what you said about like drafted by competence. And I think that that's something that we're really going to start seeing as we go forward. And I think what's really going to be important is also, you said Team Humanity, Team Turtle. Douglas Rushkoff just released a book called Team Human, and I haven't read it, but I was thinking about it myself. And I think what it's going to really take is to create a lexicon of words that are outside of the political spectrum. So like when we say something like team human, it's not progressive, it's not liberal or anything like that. It takes it away from what people will naturally associate with their defense mechanisms. And like we actually have like a candid conversation of like, we are all working together. I don't care what your political interest is. Are you here for alleviating suffering or here to alleviate your own suffering? It's like, do you want to work with the world or do you want to work for yourself? And I think that the more universal we create the terminology for that, then the easier it's going to be for all of us to actually come together. We have to work on like coming together, and I think like maybe it would take moving to a place where people are already doing that so you can help grow that movement rather than try and, like dig a bunch of small holes all over the place. Like, let's just go to where the big hole's getting dug and then just dig as deep as we can. And then over time that will, pull in more and more people until we have like a cohesive, secular, contemporary thing, like a bubble, and we're going to need our own propaganda, because that's the thing is, a lot of this kind of gets, once propaganda gets involved in like smear campaigns and then they control the language around it. That's why we can't even use the term progressive anymore because it's associated with socialist, so it's like, yeah, it really comes down to like who owns the terminology, who's creating the definitions, and maybe we should start doing that ourselves.
I want to make a anti-echo chamber for all my friends who think the same things about the world. Anti-echo chamber tonight.
How do we do it? How do we do it? I mean, I don't think it's going to be through the lens of like the current social media paradigm, but we definitely do need to be knocking down these walls that are, I just don't know. I mean, my thing is like, let's make a comprehensive language. But even as I said that, I thought like language can be diffused by other language, and whoever has the louder bullhorn is going to end up winning that fight. So it's like, how do we break out of the chamber? How do we connect to the people that we see as other? What do we fucking do?
Well, I've got several thoughts on that thread, Brett. And one of them is that one of the possibilities that, and I think it's good to recognize things that you wish to avoid. Dwelling on that too much, it would be called worrying or stressing about something that ain't happened yet. So there's this thing with humanity that I notice, or I'll just put it this way. For the United States of America to have a really significant moment era, whether it's over the course of 5 years or a month, like there would be some sort of catalyzing event. This is just one of the ways it happens. There's a catalyzing event that creates a new problem that the old linguistic scaffolding and thought group identities like liberal, conservative, progressive, right-wing, left-wing stuff, all that none of that language applies pragmatically to even approaching or talking about the problem, let alone fixing it. And in that, I have no doubt that there would be so much unity if that's how it could go down. But and I am an optimist to a fault if that's possible sometimes, but we just had this. There was a pandemic. Would you experience that recently, or was that?
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, there was a novel coronavirus that had a death rate that was a percentage that if that were to have washed over millions of people, say 330, then there would be this that would be a lot of really, really macabre mathematics and terrible things would have happened. So what the country decided to do, though in a very ramshackle fashion, at very different levels, and we got the whole decentralized thing with states, which has really, really great things about it, but also has some really like this has went weird, and different elected officials tried to do different stuff to keep that math down of death, and a lot of different things happened in different places. I'm in Detroit, Michigan. That there's much talk of our governor here, both positive and quite negative. Some of it even a bit real nasty. and that's going on in different states. Anyway, what's the ship I was trying to land here? Oh yeah. No, what was it? Did I miss it? Yeah, I brought up the pandemic as was a problem that
Unifying problem. Yeah.
in my naive mind and heart, when that was beginning to happen, I really thought, I think a lot of us did, that this was going to be a unifying, though tragic, but like, I could see how this would unify. I don't know how much of a factor of that it was that the head of state and tweeter in chief kept doing the exact opposite of using words and communication to unify. And there were obviously a bunch of everybody participated, or a lot of us participated in the spewing of vitriol and the flinging of feces, as we often do here in the good old US of A. But that almost, it seemed like that might have been a that, but we didn't unify around that. So I'm thinking, what sort of a problem would it be? And to end this on a positive, one thing that does come to mind, that as this unique event that the old language and ways that we sort and categorize and team up with and against each other don't apply to, might be, well, to have a huge umbrella term, technology, but specifically cryptocurrency, Bitcoin and coins, and just like that whole concept, which I have difficulty, articulating the jargon of like what's going on, techno-mechanically, whatever the fuck. But it seems to me like there is a really worthwhile attempt and possibility that Team Humanity, some of those turtles who are developing that stuff and are in that space, tons of turtles who are in that space are super on Team Humanity, and they may have outsmarted the old guard. And something real special and subverting of the old machinery might be going on in that arena, I think. I observe. I just said a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that Bitcoin's going to be a major player. And I mean, I think that is another aspect, is we really have to contextualize how we view currency, and because it's a resource, and that's essentially the most fundamental like human drive, is like the call for resources. So if we can find a way to empower everybody to be more plugged into the resource pool, because like right now we have like massive income inequality, and it's like, I think crypto really does offer an opportunity for us to kind of like retake that back and reprioritize what resource is and how we reallocate it in a way that isn't like done by the government, because it's kind of its own thing. It's kind of like a loose cannon, like it's its own market that isn't with like the Federal Reserve or whatever. So I don't really know too much about it. I don't know the jargon. There's people who are
There's folks who are really good at that.
What's that?
There's some turtles who will make some mouth sounds to share understanding about that, and we have both seem to be in agreement that we are not those turtles. So,
yep, I can own that.
So cryptocurrency is the thing. But just like some of the stuff that's happening in technology, it might be the train tracks doing the into onto a new path that the old guard doesn't even know what the fuck to do about.
Right.
And with the unity thing that we were just talking about, like sincere unity, I do think would come from the moment where you got a neighborhood and there's a lot of different people who think different stuff and maybe have lived next to each other for 10 years and have never talked, awkward, and like maybe had just like a few weird encounters, like somebody who was tripping at one of your bonfires and came over and was in my kitchen and we had that whole fucking thing happen. And then there's a flood and lots of people are having problems with their houses in the neighborhood, and then they all go out and talk, and friendships and alliances are formed in this moment of common problem. Now, I said I started that whole thread. I do this thing when I talk where it's just like, I'm not even sure if I'm going to land the ship, but I got something I'm trying to say. I hope it doesn't. I hope the catalyzing event of unity isn't catastrophe. But I also want to say in a darkly optimistic way that I do believe that those are inevitable if we don't, optimize, society and get the species, doing smarter stuff, and that they will have a incredible unifying effect if there are catastrophes that are, or just problems that. No, it might have to be something jarring. I don't know. I'm being all spooky now. I'm really hopeful for humanity. I promise. I am. I really think. I think if we wake up and show up and communicate and do the find the others and stay in relative contact community with the other magical turtles of Earth who are trying to help, we're gonna be good. We're gonna be good. I don't have a timeline, but.
I think it's going to take a lot of different channels of operating for us to actually do this work. So I think on one hand, I think technology is naturally bringing us together in new and novel ways. But at the same time, like you said, once that shared disaster happens, if that is the track that we're moving down, what it's going to take for us in order to have a system ready to help each other is you have to know your neighbors first. So I think while on one hand, technology, crypto is really going to be helping move us forward, there is a practical boots on the ground approach where it's you have to do the work within yourself to be able to look at your neighbor who might not look like you or talk like you or think like you, and to be able to find a common shared intention, and hopefully we don't have to wait until there's disaster. Maybe we can just start doing that right now, and then we build communal resiliency, and I think that if we want to talk about ending the echo chamber, then let's start with the people who are shoulder to shoulder with you. You talked about going to New York and helping out with Yang if he does become mayor, but that's kind of that same thing of finding the echo chamber.
Helping out with New York. Excuse me for cutting you off, but that's an important thing that my thing maybe promise 80% there that if Yang becomes mayor of New York, I will make a thorough effort to apply myself in New York City, somewhere between spend a month, or attempt to live, because I will then have this thing that I think a lot of us crave, to have some sense of hope coming from within the power structures or the shot callers, that will allow me to feel entirely encouraged to help with New York, to be a part of New York, to be someone at whatever level, because we're all at different levels and have different moves to be able to help, and just I want to feel real hopeful about optimizing a city, a country, a state. Oh God, I wanted that, and I really want to do it with Michigan. But I don't see I don't feel that thing yet where it's the whole leadership is just going to fucking do completely opposite moves that make just be constantly causing you new problems. It just absolutely won't be on your side, and it just gets kind of head draggy and hopeless.
Yeah, I feel in order for people to want to get involved with the political spectrum is you have to have some wins, and right now we have very small wins for the people who are team human, and that's why there's a few the Justice Democrats that I ended up getting through, and the one story was enough to give me hope to okay, I'll still keep plugged in. But it's until you have that a win to where it's I don't even want to invest my energy into this thing, because we watch the way they X out all the people that are actually team human, and it's just really frustrating that way. It's because it needs us to get involved, but at the same time, who wants to get involved into a system that just puts people through a meat grinder, So I'm wondering, going forward, as we're looking at this currently divided world, which may not even be as divided as it really seems on the surface. Our social media algorithm is making it look like things are a lot worse off than they are. In your estimation, with everything that you've done in your life as artist, where do you think nonsense comes in? Where do you think that energy is going to play? Because I definitely think it's going to play a role in reclaiming the sanctity of being human in the 21st century and to be engaged. But in your words, where do you think nonsense fits into this trajectory forward?
So Nonsense Night began, quite honestly, and I think that this is my participation in what I call the Vulnerability Olympics, which is where all of us public talkie turtles will sometimes say stuff that might even cause problems in our lives for it to be known publicly. There's a possible thing, but you say it not just anyway, but because we're all in this really humble and unifying cooperative competition with one another to be the most of any adjective. And now there's this word vulnerability going on out there, and from what I hear, it's really, really good for you. And I really, really enjoy the work of Brene Brown, and I really, really enjoy the felt direct experience of the psychotherapeutic and all around health and some might say spiritual wellness benefits from that of being vulnerable when not just when appropriate, because then it's not vulnerability. Anyway, I started Nonsense Night because I felt like I was failing to do performer stuff enough to nix my not nix, that's not the word, to fix my addiction. No, but to give me a fix of what I was addicted to at the time, and still am quite a bit now, but but not, it was way intense before, where it was like, so yeah, to put it in summarized simple terms, I wasn't getting enough opportunities to perform, and I wanted to do my art stuff in a place where there's people that might want to listen to, and observe art stuff, and yeah. So it initially started because I needed a place to perform my music and comedy, and fire spinning came later, and different little like character acty sort of, the deep play clowning stuff that I feel like some of us have just been developing that since we were toddlers. But I needed a place to do my sincerity expression stuff, and so I had an event or two, and then it was like, well, what if I could know that I would have a place to do my art once a month, and others could, and I'm not, and I don't know how much of this was the design of like the ethos and logos and mythos of the non-institution and the Night of Nonsense and the Nights of Nonsense with a KN, Nights, like in Shining. Yeah. I'm a very particularly confusable and distractible, and I don't want to identify as this anymore. But anyway, I sometimes express a pattern where it's hard for me to remember what I said, or remember what I'm saying mid thought. That my interest and attention can veer a lot. I'm really trying to get to rein that in and have a handle on it. But when at the beginning of Nonsense, I really didn't have a handle on it at all. So it kind of just became a thing that kept happening, where it was like there was chaos, not necessarily chaos as in like fucking barns on fire and fucking minotaurs or fucking just slicing down villagers and shit, but like just chaos as in a performer wouldn't show up who said they were gonna, and I developed this thing to instead be like, the thing that we said was gonna happen didn't, to just like not even mention it and just do what's happening, go with what's happening. And there's this thing I learned in radio school. I went to Specs Howard School of Media Arts back when they still had, like, to be honest, really antiquated technology for, like, there was like literally I think we touched 8-tracks and did CD DJing. Anyway, but one of the things that I took from that was like a spiritual wisdom, I think, about life and consciousness is, as much as you can avoid, or no, I'll put it positive. Well, I'll put it negative first. Avoid giving too much airtime to the past. And that doesn't mean forget about things that, some things, there needs to be an effort to reconcile things or, confront one's past, core wounding and such. But there's this thing sometimes where, like, okay, inoptimal thing happened, lessons learned from it, and now we're in the present, And now welcome to www.reality. Welcome to www.reality JRV, whatever the fuck. I also learned to pronounce my double U's thoroughly. But yeah, like because somebody's just tuning in, this moment, right? And that might be like a newborn baby consciousness comes in, and or just like, there's somebody just tuning in. They just walked into this movie, and if they tune into you, and the thing you're saying is, well, 15 minutes ago when we were having those audio problems, God, that was such a bummer, right? And I went and I tried to fix the thing. You tried to fix the thing too, and it's like, dude, like, this is precious airtime. This is precious lifetime, So it's like, and here we are in the present moment again. And, and it's like, but then I'm learning about certain sorts of looking at the parts of yourself, meditation or the therapy, shadow worky stuff, where it's like, there's times to do precisely that, to medicinally dwell on the past, but not dwell. Then it's not dwelling. Any fucking who. I got really, really good through Nonsense Night, or just really, really effective. Like, it doesn't bother me anymore when things don't go as planned. It's just, and here we go. And I'm just like, and I host the open mic at Burning Man, and that's a fuckaroozy of an experience of things not going to plan and amazing things happening when they're allowed to. And so I got really good at allowing, to use a less spooky for some word than chaos, but I don't believe in randomness. Well, sometimes I do. And a bunch of only could have happened in that moment, special magical moments. Like those, I think really dialed in the enterprise of encouraging and opening the container for that. And with the team that has done Nonsense Nights in the past, there was so much lessons that we all learned from doing that. I certainly would every night be like, wow, the fucking metaphors about cooperation and about we love and support each other, and I wanna that getting to observe the thing where you want more control of something that's communal, or where just all the stuff that you learn. And to be honest, during this time of a lot of self-reflection of the isolation and the lockdown era, those moments, I feel like I really examined the stuff that I wasn't allowing myself to thoroughly examine about how Nonsense Night, the beginning years and things happened, and what was going on in my psyche then, and a lot of the ways in which I subconsciously and sometimes consciously kind of sabotaged things. Well, maybe not consciously, but definitely a lot of subconscious self-sabotage and sabotage of the enterprise. It just not growing like it could have. And I felt all the feelings about that, and now I'm so excited for, man, I hope that gets to happen again. And it will. It has in small capacities, because Nonsense Night doesn't require there to be a public thing. Anyway, but if Nonsense Nights get to happen in the way that they kind of used to ish in the city of Detroit, Michigan, perhaps at the Tangent Gallery, that would be God, I would really, really feel a preciousness that I didn't back then. Because, you're just living your life.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's something the pandemic has really kind of done for a lot of things, is it gets you to look at things that you may have taken for granted and see it in a new light of even some of the things that we've just been doing for years are actually so precious and vital and limited in time that we can spend. Yeah, and I think that the idea of bringing nonsense forward, I think, is honestly super crucial for. I mean, we have a lot of work ahead of us, as a people, but I think doing that work with some levity, doing that work with not an attachment to outcomes, but also by remembering who we are fundamentally as spontaneously expressing creatures, and imbuing a little bit of everything with just a little bit of that, I think I notice it with myself in this show as a matter of I have a list of things I want to cover, but at the same time, some of the best things come up when you're not attached to any one thing, and I liked what you said about the role in radio to not dwell on the past, it's yeah, we may have blown through some of these things, but I really like where we're at now, so instead of dragging us back in the conversation for something that an amendum on another topic we talked about, let's just focus on what's here and now. And I mean, for my experience with Nonsense Nights and the spontaneous arising of those events was oftentimes that let's just work with what we have right here, right now, And yeah, I think that any avenue that we can do to have more of that in the world is going to make us more flexible and resilient and bend when we need to bend, you know?
I don't know, a thought that one thing that I think I'm pretty sure about that I'm going to make effort moves, choices to do before Nonsense Night returns in the public, you pay a cover at the door thing, or don't. Like, there's ways for you to achieve getting into Nonsense Night without paying, that are not dishonest, and then some that are. Anyway, the non-institution exists now as the three clauses, principles, the three rules, but rules meant to free us. One, don't take it seriously. Two, don't try to define it. And three, don't attempt anything mutual with each other without mutual enthusiasm for said act, which I always rephrase that last one. But don't attempt anything mutual without mutual enthusiasm. Do stuff in celebrational, consensual agreement, as opposed to assuming anything about how somebody else wants to spend their time. Anyway, or experience you. Anyway, oh yeah, I think that it behooves me, as someone who is getting better at the thing of accepting responsibility and leadershipy stuff for the stuff that I put into the world, or at some point was like the originator person. I am stepping more into my, like, I'm going to do that more thoroughly, and with much more analysis of the world and how and what would be helpful, and just have more really behind the scenes, deep catacombs knowledge, Illuminati, high council, inner council stuff, intentions for how the thing, generates experiences that move the needle in special magical ways. Anyway, yeah, the thing where this thing that people talk about that, you can say specific stuff, but there's this sense with Nonsense Night, even when it's not said, that it's like, that there's something good happening there. And I don't feel self-horn 2D saying that, like, because I've just observed it a bunch of time, and that wasn't like, mine or any one person's doing. Like, there was a container, and there's a growing community of those who have wishes and feelings about that container. And there was, I witnessed some times, several years in a row, where it was just so magical, and it just doing something. I'm going to use a big vague word, doing something good for the people who came, or at least some of them. A thing that I think it would behoove me now, as doing sincerely dedicated, accepting responsibility, leadership thing for me to do before Nonsense Night returns in a public and monetized capacity, is I want to figure out how to make the money aspect of it, which used to be just like, we have to have this, make sense in the current socioeconomic situation, and it would be really, really cool if our artists who perform could get money for this, and I would like some money for this, and the Magical Turtles who do the things that are behind the scenes and take a lot of effort and skill and creativity, and they should be getting the monies from this, and also there's this thing where the thing that I used to like, Nonsense Night started as free, and I at that point was like anti-money ish. I still had that malware going on. Yeah. And so I would kind of fought for it to be free, and then there was a period of time where it was pay what you want, and then I was just kept observing this thing gets the experiences can be way more dialed in, and quite frankly, safer, and more of the good kind of chaos and less of the dodgy kind. If there was at least a barrier of entry of, this is Nonsense Night. Do you want to come into this? Oh, well, if you want to come into this and you can look and see that there's experiences happening over there. Can you might you be so kind as to give us a few of your Federal Reserve note shekel? Put that in this bucket, and then the more that became like when it became more money, and sometimes I kept justifying it, the amount the elaborateness of the event, though that would fluctuate a lot. Some were very not elaborate, and some were super duper spectacular, and like there's some magical turtles who really showed up and did did the thing that I think some people think I was doing more of than I was, which is actual like coordination and yeah, I'm really, to be honest, a lot of the time I'm just person like just slinging permissions around. But in the future, I wish to be better with the leadership thing. There's more things that I understand now. Anyway, I think it behooves me to figure out how to make it so that Nonsense Night does have a turnstile, public events that can generate money. And how does that money get distributed amongst either or, but I think it's both, the people who did the effort to make the event magical and some very local, very immediate, very direct philanthropic-y thing. Yeah. Which is a very dehumanizing way of saying help people in like the neighborhood, the community. So then there's this sense that we're having this thing that is a purposeful party that everybody feels good about. Everybody feels good about paying their nonsense tax at the door, because that is both rewarding the efforts to generate and facilitate and have this experience for us all to enjoy, and also something that we all agree, or that is very agreeable, helps the community in some way. And then how to, and because then I would like to make there be an era of my life, whether it's like age 36 to death or like 36 to 45, because at some point I'm just like, I no longer wish to be at these fucking stupid parties. And I'm like, no, those are nonsense. And now I'm being sincere. Fuck that. Someone else here. Take the torch. Do that. But anyway, I really want to. I have deep feelings and wishes about this era of my life and of reality, where myself and a super dedicated and enthusiastic team of nonsense generating magical turtles try to take it to places. Try to go and install nonsense nights and give and set up their council, their upper council of like leadership sort of thing. I had this idea the other day that it's got to be 3 people, and they all are super in agreement that like we're gonna work together for 3 years to put this on. But because reality happens, there are mechanisms for 1 or 2 or all 3 to be able to pass that torch. But there is a commitment of sorts, because commitment I used to think was like the antithesis of nonsense and like the good kind of chaos, and like going out into the mystery and doing the thing where you trust in reality or God or whatever, or yourself, and or anyway, commitment is so magical and causes all of this particular chaos, being in a committed situation where you're showing up and doing the thing that you said you were going to do, even after you don't feel like you're choosing it every moment, and it's like, well, I said I was going to do this. Like, that shit is so special. And I now in pandemic time, not being away from doing Nonsense Night, I really realize this thing now that used to just actually confuse me, that it's like, well, if the magical spell calls itself nonsense, then do we have to be actively avoiding things that make sense and are like optimal? Or like, does this have to be stupid night? Does this have to be like and now I feel really special about this thing. It's like, well, what's more nonsense than something that is called nonsense actually being one of the more dialed in, intentional and critical thinking. Well, I don't know if critical thinking applies. Anyway, that it's like, this is actually a really, this makes a lot of sense. This makes a lot of sense. And people are really trying to keep developing it to make more sense for more people and be more welcoming and optimize the things that happen And this sounds like social engineering, but maybe there's good ways to do social engineering. But those moments that happen where people who usually don't connect out in the wild are totally, as we say, vibing out together because they're in a container of nonsense and encouragement of sincere communication.
Yeah, I think the idea of discipline is, I don't remember where exactly I heard this, but like discipline is the only way to true freedom. And that actually shouldn't be like as much of a call for like, ooh, that's like really stuck up. But it's like the ability to apply order in creative ways can actually further enhance your ability to let spontaneity have like a container to like arise in. So like the idea of like leaning into like higher levels of organization while respecting kind of some of the key pillars, I think is really how you create those satellite nonsense things. There has to be some sort of like connective tissue to the thing for it to be, I mean, there has to be like a foundation of like expected experience, even if everything that happens on top of that is wildly different. Like it has to kind of have that thing that you can communicate to other people to a degree, even if it's like you can expect to not expect or know what to expect, But I think like the more that we can like, I like the word optimization. I think that that's kind of like a key phrase when we're thinking about ways that people interface with a space or a practice or a show even, optimization is key.
Yeah, I'm about that word. I say it a lot often because it's great. It's not, make as good and or enjoyable as maybe not possible, but as you do,
Yeah.
like, just to be saying it more often, because it's also it's more humble than let's do the most amazing, best possible thing. Because you're saying optimize has in it the insinuation that we're taking the elements and the equipment, the instruments, and the resources, human and otherwise, that we've got, and we're doing the best we can with that.
Yeah, and I think that that's an important aspect of it is that you're taking what you already have, so it doesn't create this kind of like lack mentality where it's like we need to get X, Y, and Z in order for this to be what it needs to be, whereas like saying it needs optimization, it's like we already have all the core elements. It just means smoothing out all the rough edges so that we can better provide that core experience. I think I like that you mentioned it's kind of like what you have. It's not what you are going to have. But with that, what's that?
The whole intention thing that turtles talk about. Fuck. If you don't have a plan, you'll become a part of something else's not plan or plan.
Yeah.
So have a plan. Try.
Yeah. Well, with that, we are at an hour and a half. This has been a wonderful conversation. I always enjoy all the time we get to share. It's always super illuminating. So I want to say thank you so much, Zach, for sharing some space with me. Going forward into this new year, how can people get involved with you and what you got going on?
Well, Brett Kane, let me think about that. Well, that's another thing that I really need to orchestrate immediately. I would say right now, I hate doing the thing where I utter the name of the social network because these are the very social networking platforms that I wish to be, not necessarily that they end or like I wish the best for everybody, but I just want something to come along that replaces. All right, I'm going to be really specific. I just would like Facebook, Instagram, to be just replaced. And not necessarily, replaced isn't even what I wish for. No, because that's like I want others to. I hope for something to emerge that signals to the social network, the individuals and groups that may switch or just also be using that. That it signals and sincerely delivers on like trying to optimize the human connectivity. And not the the stuff that we're finding out about algorithmic, inadvertently having an echo chamber form around your internet network that that there is an actual mechanism that is keeping you from new or challenging stuff. That we don't know how much that has bent us in a bad direction. We don't know yet. We're just talking about it more. But anyway, Instagram, I'm at Nonsense Man or at Nonsense Night is on Instagram. Also, my friend Fractal the Magical Turtle, who was nearby, but he's I was thinking that he
listening. He's aptly listening.
Yeah, and we can have you if you interviewed Fractal the Magical Turtle sometimes distinctly, that would be great. But Magical Turtle Medicine on the Instagrams. There's a YouTube, though I haven't really been putting much on the YouTube yet. But I'm gonna change that immediately. Yeah, New Year energy. Yeah, I'm doing it. I'm getting a gym membership.
Yeah. That.
Yep. Cool. Gym membership and a fucking Adderall prescription. We're fucking changing the world, bro. But I would say, I tend to look at that most of the social networks now. And I really want to collaborate making music. That's what I would like to do the most. I would like a direct message saying, hey, I make music. Would you like to make rapping and singing or perhaps magical creatures, characters, singing children's songs, lyrics over this music? And then I'll look at it and be like, no. But then I'll look at the 17th and be like, no. But you know what? The 16 prior, I now have changed my mind about them, and then we make music. I'm entirely rambling now. It's been great
a long
talking.
Process, but yeah.
What's that?
It's been great talking to you, Brett.
Yeah, dude, you too, man. It's been so long. I don't know why. Like, you have your own podcast, and on Senses, I'm doing this. I mean, I'm fresh into the game, so I imagine we're gonna have repeat conversations. And yeah, now that we have this virtual connection, let's freaking do this, man.
All right.
Let's save the world. Like, let's plan it all out. Like, you and me, man. I'll be your running mate. Fuck.
Yeah, we'll save our world. Yeah, we'll keep saving our world.
Yeah. Well, that's all you can really do.
Yeah.
So,
that's what we're doing.
Awesome. Zach, thank you so much. I appreciate you very much. I will talk to you super soon.
Bye-bye to you and bye-bye to all. Happy reality. Remember you're dreaming. Love you all.
All right, my friends, that is the end of the episode. Thank you so much for listening all the way through. I want you to know that you specifically are the reason I am doing this show. So thank you for your continued support. It really does mean the world to me. And we will catch you at the same time, Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time next week. We got some more episodes coming. I already got some stuff recorded waiting for your ears. So without further ado, have a great week. Treat yourself well, and I love you. Okay, goodbye.